In This War of Mine, developed by 11-bit Studios in 2014, you manage a group of civilians trying to survive in a besieged city. In order to keep the group alive, the player must manage the group's resources, such as food, medication, and clean water, and undertake dangerous scavenging missions in order to obtain supplies, until a ceasefire is called and the city is safe again.
The gameplay of This War of Mine is split up into two main mechanics, reflecting the game's daytime and nighttime. During the day, the player must manage the group's shelter and tend to the group's needs, making sure they are fed, warm, and healthy. Depending on the supplies and crafting materials the group currently has, the player can build items such as rainwater collectors, a makeshift herbal garden, and a crafting bench. The player can use these items to either manage the group's needs, such as having clean water, but also contribute to the group's economy, as supplies can be traded. Nighttime features the game's more action-oriented elements. The game gives the player the option to send one survivor out to scavenge, with various locations to choose from, while the others stay behind to defend the shelter from bandit raids or to sleep. These locations vary from abandoned to highly dangerous, with hostile soldiers or bandits present, with the idea that a higher risk means a higher reward. The main weakness of the gameplay is that it is easy to exploit. On paper, the game seems very fair and balanced. However, a smart player can easily abuse the game and trivialize any challenges. Various programming oversights exist that allow the player to clean out the trader's inventory for free, giving the player a massive number of supplies. The game's learning content and gameplay are intertwined. This lack of game balance also trivializes the message the game is trying to convey.
The game's visual fidelity and audio quality fit well within the game's theme and narrative. The art style is cartoonish but dark and washed out in color. Characters' faces lack detail, having no facial expressions. The shelter and various other locations are broken down and messy, with rubble and broken furniture everywhere, showing the damage caused by the fighting. The game is accompanied by a melancholic soundtrack during the day, while the scavenging missions feature a more action-oriented soundtrack. Technically speaking, the game runs well, and only a few minor audio bugs were encountered during testing.
This War of Mine is set in a fictional setting, but otherwise very realistic, as the developers clearly drew inspiration from real war. Through a realistic portrayal of a civilian's experience of war, the game's learning content is integrated into both plot and the gameplay itself. As the player is interacting with the learning content, being exposed to the horrible conditions civilians in war zones have to live in, they are also trying to win the game. Examples include needing to manage limited supplies, do we eat today or save it for tomorrow, and facing moral dilemmas. Do we steal to get food and medicine, or do we find another way? In other words, the main body of the didactical content is simultaneously the challenges the player faces in order to win the game. Aside from showing the conditions civilians have to endure during war, the player's empathic understanding and moral values play a role into the game's different endings as well. The game has different endings for each survivor, depending on the actions they took during the war. Characters that did a lot of killing and stealing will be in a broken state and receive a bad ending, while those that were kind to others will receive a good, or bittersweet in some cases, ending. This means that a more empathic approach from the player's side will result in a more positive ending.
From the standpoint of ethics, inclusion, equity, and diversity, the game shows different perspectives on the situation. Survivors can be male or female, young or old, different backgrounds and perspectives. Some are very empathic and will be strongly affected by negative actions such as killing or stealing, while others are more egoistic and excuse negative actions if it benefits the group. Trade-off is that the more empathic characters also get happy from positive actions, while the egoistic characters do not. The egoistic characters also get sad easily when their personal needs are not met. The game has a connection to the SDGs, in the sense that it stresses the importance of fundamental human rights, specifically ones people don't have in a time of war. No other connection to sustainability was found. The developers aim to educate about the hardship of living in a war zone, how it can unexpectedly happen anywhere. Do not take peace for granted. The game is for profit, meaning the developers aim to make money of the game. War of Mine has also been added to the Polish school curriculum and is featured in the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Arts in New York City.
This War of Mine is available in 12 different languages, but is text only, meaning no parts of the game are voiced. The game is available on a wide range of platforms, including PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and mobile. The game is small in size and is reasonably priced, €18 for PC, €13 for the mobile version, and it does not require an internet connection to be played. In terms of scale-up potential, this War of Mine shows a lot of promise. There is always a war in some part of the world. With the Ukraine war happening, this topic is gaining more attention. But people living in war-torn areas in other parts of the world, parts which are often forgotten by the Western world, deserve just as much of an empathic understanding. As such, the concept of showing civilians trying to survive in a war zone can be applied to any war-torn area in the world, in order to bring awareness to this topic. In summary, this War of Mine brings to the table a strong emotional representation of the experience of civilians during war, with fun gameplay to boot. The learning content is seamlessly integrated into both plot and gameplay, with no interruptions, leaving the player in the driver's seat for the whole experience. Plot, gameplay, atmosphere, and narrative all fit together well into a melancholic, depressing package, reflecting the desperation of those trying to survive in a war-torn area. Room for improvements could be made in the balance department, however, as the game is too easy to exploit for the player, trivializing any challenge. With these things in mind, we give this War of Mine 20 out of 25 Mind Game stars.